So it's on right now. Okay. No. I didn't bring it. I need to put it on.
September 16th, 2025, regular meeting of Mount Pleasant City Council will now come to order. The time is 6 p.m. At this time, I'd like to invite everyone who wishes to join us in a word of prayer.
Lord, we come before you this evening thankful for the beautiful blessings that you've given us to work and live in this city, and to all have relationships as family and friends and co-workers. We ask for your blessing to be here at this meeting this evening. We ask for your guidance, we ask for your wisdom as we we go about the city's business, and that all things may be bring you glory. We ask this all in your Son's name, Jesus Christ.
Amen. Please continue standing for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into open session with public comments. The City Council welcomes citizen participation and comments at all council meetings. Citizens' comments are limited to 3 minutes out of respect for everyone's time. The council is not permitted to respond to your comments. The Texas Open Meetings Act requires that the topics of discussion, deliberation be posted on the agenda no less than 72 hours in advance of the council meeting. If your comment relates to topics that are on the agenda, the council will be able to discuss those comments on the agenda at the time that the topic is discussed and deliberated. Do we have any public comment? There's nothing online. We're going to go ahead and move into the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved through a single council motion, which applies to all items listed. Consent agenda items are considered routine, not likely to require discussion or deliberation, and may be discussed prior to making a motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless council members request an item be removed and considered separately. Item number 1 is consider approval of September 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes. And item number 2 is consider pay request number 4 for Drake Paving LLC for work performed at the Mount Pleasant Regional Airport Southwest Site Development and Drainage Improvement. Is council okay with the consent agenda? All items?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Madam Secretary, will you take the vote, please?
Yes.
Aye.
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 The vote was unanimous, and we'll go ahead and move into the regular agenda. Before we start tonight's work, just really quick, I just want to pause and recognize our city council for, I'm sure, some sleepless nights and a lot of energy, and their work is essential for making Mount Pleasant successful, and I just sincerely thank them, and maybe when y'all see them, you can too. So we'll go ahead and move into regular agenda number 3, item monthly financial report for month end August 32nd, 2025 with Jillian.
All right, so we're back with our monthly reports. Been a little bit just because budget season and everything, but we're bringing it back. And so this is for the end of August, which is 11 months out of the year, or 91.7 of the way through the year, just as a reference number to keep in your mind as we go through this. And as we know, general fund revenues, it's not always going to line up like that because property tax comes at the beginning of the year. But as a general rule of thumb at this point, a 91% is about standard. So if we'll start with the general fund revenues, we see property tax, it's still trickling in as it does at this time of the year, and we'll see that in the graph in a second. Sales tax we see coming in, we'll also look at that in the graph in a second. It's right about where we expected it to be. And then all the other, we see the permits and fees, and then the other user fees are both coming in over budget, which is a good thing for revenues. And so those things are doing really well. Shows to be the growth that the city is going through over the past few months. And we see our overall revenues are at 90%. And then here's the property tax as a whole. It follows that graph about how it always does every year. And so there's no cause for concern there. The property tax is 0.28% above budget, so right on track where it's supposed to be. And then we have our sales tax for August. We see it's still a little bit lower than budget and than last year, but again, it's right where we expected it to be over the past couple months. We expected it to come in short and stay short, so this is where we expected it to end. And we'll see in a few slides the September numbers, which will be the full year for sales tax as well. Here's the general fund expenses. Again, all of those are about right where we thought they would be. Overall, we're looking at 85.4%, which is below that 91.7, so that's a good thing. All of our directors are keeping their budgets in line. Most of the departments are below 80%, which is really good compared to that 91.7 number. The only department that is over 10 or anything relatively high is the legislative, and that's just the annual payment for the online agenda software. So that's a one-time payment, so it's gonna hit bigger than a normal month would. Our year-to-date actuals, we are showing a surplus of $657,158, and so that's good. We're running an excess, not a deficit. And then we'll move on to the utility fund. Utility fund, we see our revenues are at 94.2. That's really good. It's above that 91.7%. Shows we're bringing those in consistently as they should be. And then our expense side, again, all of those are about where they should be. Our directors are keeping their budgets in line again. Most of those are below 80%. I think we have a couple that are a little bit above, but they're still right where they should be with that 91.7%. And we see 87.7 for the fund for expenses, and a surplus of $1,229,615. And now we'll get to September sales tax numbers. So this will be the full year, and I went ahead and included the percentages and actual differences at the bottom of the screen as well. And so this shows we ended the year at $544,000 below budget, which is right in that $500,000 to $600,000 that we have been expecting to end at over the past couple months. And that's what I got for that. Do you have any questions?
Council, any questions? Okay. Can I get a motion?
There's no motion required for this item.
All right. Item number 4, presentation of appraisal tax process by TCAD Chief Appraiser Shirley Dixon.
And I'll turn it over to Shirley.
Thank you. This is already on, correct? Okay. All right, y'all bear with me. I usually give these presentations walking all over the place, so I'll try to stay in one spot. All right, so I am here tonight to just kind of go over the property tax process. There's always a lot of questions as to what the appraisal district has to do with property taxes versus what the actual entity has to do with property taxes. So I'm going to give a really brief overview tonight. There's so much that goes into this process, but I figured y'all wanted to get out of here before midnight, so I kind of tried to cut it down a little bit. So I always get the question as to how appraisal districts came about. Appraisal districts came about in '79, actually, through the Pivotal bill. Prior to the Pivotal bill, you had an appraiser for every single one of your entities. So the city had an appraiser, the school had an appraiser, the county had an appraiser. So when you would get your appraisals, they would be all over the place. You might have one that would come in at $80,000, one that would come in at $120,000. It really looked as if some of the stuff was biased. So they came out with the Pivotal bill, was passed in '79, like I said, and it created 254 appraisal districts in the state of Texas, and that's basically just how many counties that there are in the state of Texas. So it was able to create a place for everybody to get one standardized, uniform appraisal for all of their entities. It set out uniform appraisals. It made it where licensed appraisers had to do the appraisal. Appraisal districts are the only profession that uses mass appraisal, which not everybody agrees with. But that's really the only way that we would be able to affordably do appraisals of every property in the whole county. We have about 33,000 parcels in Titus County. This also gave more oversight. They actually created a property tax board to oversee CADs in the beginning. Now it's all been switched over to the Texas Comptroller's Office. They actually do what's called a map review on the appraisal districts, and they do a school district property value study. The map review for our CAD is done every even number of years. It alternates with the property value study. So every even number, we get maps review, which basically just stands for methods and assistance programs. They're going to come in and make sure that we're following all the laws. They're going to audit our homestead applications, ag applications, make sure we're not granting applications that doesn't qualify or that we don't have proof qualifies. So we're really not being nitpicky when we're asking you to come back in and bring us something. We're just making sure we have all of our ducks in a row for when we get those audits. It also looks at our schedules just to make sure that we're following all the laws that goes with schedules. We have to prove that we meet any deadline that we have to, even when we certify the roll, we have to prove that we certified the roll on time. We have to prove that we sent our estimates on time and all of that. School district property value study. The reason it's called the school district property value study is that's just the way they break it out. They study each school district. They send out their own appraisers, and they analyze the sales just in our county to see what properties are selling for. Their appraisers do their own appraisals, and then we have a 10% confidence interval is what it's called, which basically just means we can either be 5% high or we can be 5% low on those appraisals and be okay, but anything outside of that, we are not okay. They fail us on that property, and if we fail in enough properties, then they start taking state funding away from the school district. Now I always get the question where they say, okay, well, so the state is valuing your properties. No, the state is not valuing our properties. They're just making sure that we have everybody at 100% market value. Because if everybody's at 100% market value, then the taxes are distributed evenly according to value, which is what ad valorem stands for, to every property owner in that entity. This bill also created the appraisal review board. The appraisal review board is just a group of citizens in Titus County that owns property and are taxpayers just like you. They have to come in and hear actual appeals. Like if you think that your value is wrong on your property, they're going to be the ones that you come in and you protest your property to. They are selected or appointed by the district administrative judge. That recently changed. Prior to that, it was, I think that changed in 2023. Don't quote me on that. It might have been before that, but it has been fairly recent. It used to be they were appointed by my board of directors, but they're trying to separate the appraisal district from everything. We don't have any control over anything except for values. So the ARB is now appointed by the district administrative judge. Okay. And the constitutional requirements for ad valorem taxes is in Article 8, Section 1. It's just that you will be equal, appraisals will be equal and uniform, and you'll be taxed on the proportion of your value. So we're not going to go in and compare. I know these are very, very different houses, but we're not going to go in and compare houses like this. You're going to be compared to other houses that's similar construction, similar type, similar location. This is just a quick overview of kind of what we're doing at certain times of the year. Section 2301 of the Property Tax Code requires that we have properties at market value as of January 1 of that year. So even though we send your notice out in April, we're not talking about what your property value is in April. It's actually as of January 1, what you could sell that property for on the open market. And then January through April We are completing appraisals, processing applications, April to May. This is going to be when we send our notices out to the property owners, and then you have that time frame that you can protest your value. May to July, this is when your ARB is going to be hearing your value disputes and making determinations on values. August to February, we are going to have the appraisers back out in the field, and that's kind of when the appraisal cycle starts over for us. So right now we're already back in the field and we're doing 2026. We're making sure all of our data is correct. So you might see them driving around. They're just out collecting data. August 7th, or August to September, this is when the no new revenue rates and the voter approval rates are going to be posted on the TNT website, and local taxing units adopt their tax rates. August 7th, that voter approval rate and no new revenue rate has to be posted on your counties and your cities' websites, as well as the TNT website. School districts don't have to do the 50-12 notice, which is the voter approval and the no new revenue rate. And then all tax rates have to be adopted by September 29th. October 1st, assessors and collectors are going to start sending out the tax bills on behalf of the entities. And then January 31st of the next year is when the taxes are due. If you pay February 1st, even if you pay on February 1st, it's considered late. So make sure that you have all those taxes paid by February 1st, because then they're going to start charging penalties and interest on those balances that are still due. And then July 1st of the next year, then that is when attorney's fees start kicking in for collections. Okay, and this just kind of tells you a little bit about what we are collecting when we go out on mass appraisal. So we're going to look at your location, your type of improvement, size, age, condition, any amenities that you might have on your property, the construction type, and then we're going to compare it with similar properties that have actually sold in your area. So Section 104.7 gives a definition of market value, which my very short definition is just what would you be able to sell that property for as of January 1 on an open market. So not just calling your friend and saying, hey, I really want to get rid of this piece of property. It has to be exposed on the open market where anybody could make an offer on it. There's 3 approaches to value. We have the cost approach, the sales approach, and the income approach. Your cost approach is going to be more used for new construction or properties that don't sell as much. So that's going to be your commercial properties. They don't sell as often as what your residential properties do, and we don't get as much of that sales information. The sales approach we use for residential properties. And we do get a lot of sales information on those. And then income approach is going to be used as for properties that we can get good data on what are their monthly rents. What would an investor pay for that total property, taking into consideration what his return would be on his investment. So that's going to be like your storage units, apartments, stuff like that. Okay, and then this is just a little bit more about mass appraisal. We use a CAMA system, which is computer assisted mass appraisal software. To put globally recognized mass appraisal techniques for developing statistical models to value large properties. As I said, we do mass, so we're valuing a universe of properties as of a given date, and then we have to be able to test that for accuracy. And that's part of our MAPS review also. They make sure that we're testing all of those schedules. For residential properties, we're going to look at sales from a 12 to 18 month period. Of course, we would really like to use sales from just that year, but let's say we go into a year where there's hardly any sales at all. Then we're going to have to extend to that 18-month period instead of the 12-month period. The equalization phase is the phase from April to July, and this is where we are going to send out your notice of appraised values by April 1st or as soon thereafter as practicable, and then you get 30 days to protest that value. I tell everyone, if you have not received an appraisal notice by April 15, call up. If your value didn't change, you won't get one. So if you had an ARB value, you don't get those appraisals. That does not mean you can't protest. It just means you didn't get an appraisal notice because your value didn't change. So always contact the office if you didn't receive yours by April the 15th. Okay. Once you file your protest, or even if you haven't filed a protest yet, once you get that notice of appraised value, we encourage you to come in and meet with your appraiser. Make sure that all the characteristics of your property are correct. Make sure that we didn't miss anything when we were out there, or if you've recently removed a storage shed or something like that, let us know. Come in and let us know if it's still on the roll. Then if you're not able to work anything out with your appraiser, then obviously you would go to the appraisal review board. And then there's still post ARB options that you can do if you don't agree with what the ARB did, or if they didn't make a determination that you feel is correct. You can go to district court, file binding arbitration, or go to a SOA hearing. Okay. And this is just the basic of what tax rates are configured. So tax rates are two rates. You're going to have your M&O rate and your INS rate. Your M&O rate is just your day-to-day operations, salaries, utilities, furniture, supplies, gas, etc., anything that you would need for your day-to-day operations. And then you're going to have your INS rate. So that's if the entity has any debt, that's going to be what that rate is. And then those combined together is your total tax rate. And the assessment phase, which is the phase that we're in currently. This is just a brief definition of the rates that, like I said, the rates for the no new revenue rates and the voter approval rates have to be posted by August 7th. So the no new revenue rate is the rate that an entity can adopt and get the same amount of tax revenue as it had the year before. This rate does not take into consideration new value. So you would get the same amount of revenue that you had the year prior, plus whatever you would get on your new value. The voter approval rate is the highest rate that you can adopt without having to have an election. Back in 2019, in Senate Bill 2, this used to be 8% that an entity could raise your taxes without a vote. Now that it is 3.5% for cities and counties, 2.5% for schools. There was some legislation out to change this to 2.5% for schools all across the board, and then it went down to 1%, and then the bill died. So it's going to remain this way for at least 2 more years. Usually when they have those bills out, they come back around if they died. So the de minimis rate is the rate that an entity can adopt that would produce $500,000 more in taxes. This does have a population restriction to it. Sorry. The population is 30,000. And then the unused increment rate is the tax, if the tax unit forgoes revenue in a preceding 3 years, it's allowed to bank what they did not use. So basically what that means is, let's say that their voter approval, they adopted a rate between their no new revenue rate and their voter approval rate. Whatever that percentage difference was all the way up to the voter approval rate is banked, and then they could come back and use that all in 1 year. Okay, so this is the basic tax rate formula. While we're doing all of our appraisals and doing all of our protest season, that's the time of year that all the entities in the county are working on their budgets. Once we certify the roll, which has to be done by July 25th, the very basic, and I say very basic because this would only be for an entity that doesn't have sales tax and doesn't have debt or any of that kind of stuff. So you would just take whatever the budget need is divided by the taxable values times 100, and that gives you the rate you need to get to that budget. And then I just put some examples on the next page. So if your unit budget was $10 million and your taxable value was 1.7, the tax rate needed to get that would be 58 cents. And then 18 million with a $3 billion tax base, it would be 60 cents. And then 18 million with a $4.5 billion tax base, you would need 40 cents. Okay, and this is just how you calculate what your bill would be. We get a lot of phone calls about what would my bill be if this tax rate was adopted. This is the way you calculate it. So if you have a $200,000 taxable value and the tax rate is 58 cents divided by 100, your tax bill would be $1,160. And if you had $153,000 of taxable value, tax rate was 49 cents divided by 100, that's $749.70. And then if you're, you have 153,000 in taxable value with a 39-cent tax rate divided by 100 is $596.70. Okay, and then moving on to the collection phase. Once tax rates are adopted, bills are mailed October 1st or as soon thereafter as practicable. Bills not paid by February 1st begin accruing penalties and interest, and if not paid by July 1st, additional attorney's fees are attached up to 20%, and that's all in section 3301A of the Texas Property Tax Code. In Titus County, there's actually 2 offices that you pay at. I am the tax assessor collector for the cities and the schools, and then the Melissa Stevens at the tax office is for the county college and hospital. This is just the average for the city of Mount Pleasant currently, and this just gives kind of an overview of 25's values versus 24's values. 25's are going to be a little bit skewed because this is the average taxable value of a property with a homestead on it, that first line up there. So this is also going to include new homes with new homesteads. So last year's average taxable was $138,767. This year's is $154,626. Then if you apply the tax rates, it would be the taxes on the average in 2024 was $472.38, and the taxes on the average homestead for 2025 would be $566. And then it also has the commercial and industrial property. Okay, I feel like I went over all of this extremely fast. Before I get into this last page, is there any questions? Good.
Anybody
A lot
have
of
any
information, I'm sorry.
Hey, can you go back one slide?
One slide? Yes.
I was just curious, the 566, or either one, the tax rate, the 472, is that quarterly? Is that?
No, that's for the year. That's what the bill would be for the year.
So the increase would be $93.62
Yes, a year
across the
Yeah.
board. Okay.
Yeah, that on the averages.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so some new bill information that you all are going to want to pay attention to. There's 3 main ones that's going to be going to voters in November. That's going to be House Bill 9. I think it's going to show up on your ballot as Proposition 9. And this is one that every entity needs to really pay attention to also. So this is a $125,000 exemption on business personal property. Currently there is it's not really an exemption, it's just a threshold that if your business personal property is valued at $2,500 or less, that is completely exempt. And then that was it. So this bill is going to allow a $125,000 exemption on all business personal property in every entity in the county. So if I use last year's values, the 2025 values, sorry, I'm already in 2026. So if I use that, we're probably looking at about $22 million that's going to come off the tax roll next year, as far as taxable value goes. That is something that will be voted on in November, along with Senate Bill 4, which is going to be Proposition 13 for the school districts, and this is going to be your homestead exemption, the mandatory ones by the school district. This is going to be going from $100,000 to $140,000. And then the over 65 and disability exemption would be going from $10,000 to $60,000, and I think that's going to be Proposition 11 on your ballot in November. So make sure that y'all pay attention to all of those when you go vote. And then I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have. That went really fast. sorry. So, any other questions?
I have
Yeah.
a question.
Okay.
How is your board of directors determined?
The board of directors are appointed by the entities. So y'all should have recently received nomination request ballots.
So
You
the
get to
taxing entities choose them?
yeah, well, how it works is you appoint nominations for the board members, and then those are all sent to me, and then I get a ballot together and I send the ballot back out, and then each entity votes on whoever's on that on the ballot, and then the top ones are the ones that are placed. So yes, they're
What are the
appointed.
duties of the board of directors?
The board of directors' duties, and I wished I would have brought this because there were some law changes on this year too. They adopt the budget, and they adopt the reappraisal plan, and they hire and fire the chief appraiser, and that's the extent pretty much of what they're able to do.
So the fox is guarding the hen house, basically.
Okay. I have a question.
I think
Yes,
the
ma'am.
public should vote on who's on the board.
Well, the reason that it's not done like that is because the way that the Pivotal bill actually set all this up was to take political pressure out of all the appraisal district so that they can't be pressured into values. And the way they do that is not having anything elected, really. It's all appointed.
But isn't there some kind of an allotment on the amount of votes each entity gets or something?
Yes, yeah, so that is based on your levy for the previous year. That's how your votes, or the number of votes that you get, are calculated. So, and that's all in the property tax code.
And who are the top ones that get the most votes as of now?
Oh, okay. Like the entity that has the
Yeah,
most vote?
yeah.
Okay. Mount Pleasant ISD has the most, and then I think it goes county after that. I didn't look at that before I left, so I'm just guessing on that second one, but usually Mount Pleasant ISD has the most because their levy is higher.
I knew ours was pretty low the last couple of times I listed.
Yeah.
We weren't on the
The school district levies have been going down quite a bit the last couple of years because of the compression rate and then the homestead exemptions and all of that. But I do still think Mount Pleasant ISD has the highest votes.
So when you shared with me the other day about the 22 million, is that going to affect all the entities?
Yes, it'll be different, obviously different amounts for all the entities. But yes, that bill and that exemption is for every single entity, not
And
just school
when you
districts.
gave me that amount, was that your calculation playing with what
Yes,
you think
that
was
was
going
just
to be the
looking at-
city?
Yeah, that was just looking at what 25 business personal property values were, and just pretending like they had that exemption. So I was figuring probably around 22 million for the city. We're looking closer, probably 90 million for the county. So
And so that's not the other two bills that were,
no,
that's
No.
just that one.
that's just that one. Yeah, the other two are only going to affect that exemption for the school district.
Whenever I emailed you the other day, I thought it was pretty interesting, and I think it would be interesting to make it public, is that, like, the board of directors, what's the longest tenure that y'all got on the board of directors?
How long they've been on there?
Yeah.
I know the majority of them have been on there. I think our chair has been on there for, I can't remember if he was there when I came, but if he wasn't, he was there shortly after. I've been at 8 years. So, but I really think he was actually on there when I came. Then we have a couple that are pretty new, that's been on there for 2 or 3 years, I think. Are you talking about board of directors or ARB?
Oh,
The
ARB,
ARB.
yeah.
Yeah, they have, ARB members are hard to find. It's not an easy job. I know that we've had a couple that have gotten appointed by the judge and then immediately said, no, I don't want to do this, or went to a training and said, no, I don't want to do this. So it's rather difficult to find those people. We always tell them, if you're interested in being on the ARB, just get with the district administrative judge, because I know that they're always looking for people. So.
Yeah, I just remembered it being pretty low, like it wasn't very many years. So.
Yeah, it's rough. So
Yeah, we can imagine.
So one other thing I'd like you to, you spoke well, about this, but it's still, I want to make sure everybody got this because it kind of shocked me. When the appraisals here are done, and when you were explaining it to me, you're kind of like graded based
Yes,
on
ma'am.
what your appraisal is.
Mhm.
And if you're off, then it's like you're put on probation.
Yes.
It's like you get a grade of a C.
Yeah,
Or D.
right. So I did touch on that a little bit, the school district property value study. And it's part of the way that the comptroller helps hold us accountable. Because if we don't have everybody at 100% market value, or we're not getting everybody there, then we're not following the law. So they come in and they, like I said, analyze the sales, send their own appraiser out, have them do their own appraisal. And if we're not in that 10% confidence interval, 5% high or low, then we're going to fail on those properties. So usually what happens is if a appraisal district fails a property value study, they're put on probation. They're given a grace period of 1 year to get that back up. And then the next year, instead of just having one test, the maps or the property value study, you immediately have another property value study with the maps review. You're doing both of them in 1 year. Now let's say you pass, you get out of grace, and you move on with life until your next property value study. And then let's say you didn't do your job. You didn't get those values up or down. They can even be high, then that is when they start taking school funding from the school district that you failed in.
And that's why I was like, why the school district? I mean, that's where I kind of left going, why punish the school?
Well, I don't have an exact answer for that, but I feel like it might have something to do with the fact that, they get state funding as well. So I don't know if that would affect state funding as far as if we had the values too high or too low, would they be getting more than what they should be getting or less than what they should be getting?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. But
Yeah.
I have one real quick.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, we've obviously, and I think a lot of folks either listening or online or in the room, we've been in a softer real estate market as a whole. And so let's just, obviously we're in an appraisal season, so it's not a hard question,
Right.
but more or less when they're looking at CAD, right, and they're kind of trying to understand the valuation, there's two numbers there, right? Your market value and then obviously your taxable value that can only be taxed X amount, I think it's 10% or something every year based on that market value. So which number would be affected necessarily? Would it just be the market value number that would potentially increase or decrease? It's been increasing, but likely there may be some movement there.
Right.
So just so folks understand.
Okay. So what we deal with is market value. So any number that I'm talking about is going to be market value. Your assessed value and your taxable, that's a calculation. So when I talk about values and what the state's going to be looking at when they do our reviews is going to be market value.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay.
So do we have any questions out in the audience? Online, we're still clear?
Well, okay, so the appraisal district don't charge anybody, but we do value your property. That would be a law that would actually have to come down from legislation. They did the over 65 exemptions, and they've been doing the compression rates to kind of help that go down some. But if there were going to be any additional exemptions, that's all handed down from your legislature. I don't know a whole lot about the new hospital. There is some of those types of hospitals that are tax exempt. So we're going to have to just wait and see when it's complete, if it qualifies for exemptions or if they apply for an exemption.
Very good question. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else?
You
Okay.
did great.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I mean, I do have a slide with my contact information, but it's very simple. You can just go to our website, and I think my email address is right on the front. We do also offer workshops that we post on our Facebook page. So if y'all ever want to stop by one of those or just have questions, it's a really informal way for us to be able to answer questions for you.
And if anybody wants to be on the ARB, talk to you.
Yes, talk to the district administrative judge.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to item number 5. We're gonna hold a public hearing and consider ordinance 2025-17, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2025-2026, and it's with Rob, and I am opening the hearing, public hearing.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, it's an honor to be here with you this evening. We are here to, again, hold the public hearing on the budget. In doing so, I would like to just go back to have a slide presentation. This will not be short. I will not apologize because we do need to take our time to do that, not just for council, but so that the public sees that everything that we're doing is transparent. So far, the proposed budget for 25-26 has been as follows. August 7th, we had our first budget workshop. August 12th, we had our second. On the 15th, we had the proposed budget was posted. On September 2nd, we had our first public hearing regarding the proposed budget and tax rate. 8th through the 12th, I was able to meet with each of you individually. I did meet with a few collectively, but most of them were individual meetings. They were not short meetings. They were full of questions. They were full of information. I thought they were very productive. Were they a little frustrating at times? I will not lie. Yes, they were. But if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right, and I think we did that. So I would thank you for your time. I would thank you for your questions, and thank you for this opportunity to present this evening. So I like to go back to the basics. Why are we here as an organization? We are here to serve our citizens, period. No less and more if we can, but at the very least, we're here to serve our citizens. Everything we do must go through this filter. And that starts and ends generally with the budget. So how did we get to where we are now? If we are going back to the basics, we should also have a good understanding of how we arrived at our location. And in doing so, we will look at some historic documentation going back to a few years to where we are now, excuse me, and an explanation as to what those numbers and statistics show. So first, I'd like to talk about the bond debt. The annual payments for the general fund debt, or debt service fund, has increased from 1.78 million to 1.86 million, which is an increase of about 82 million. That's, again, general fund. The annual payments for the utility payment, or utility fund, debt has increased from 4.94 million to 5.25 million, which is an increase of 301,000. So just looking specifically at bond debt, we have borrowed to improve the street. We have borrowed to improve Delwood Park. We have borrowed to purchase a fire truck. We have borrowed to purchase other things or to improve other things. Basically what that means is we're renting our street. We don't have the money to pay as we go. So the city has budgeted at or below the minimum level, which we can just perform the basic services. We can't fix our streets. We can't fix up our parks. We can't purchase vehicles without borrowing. That needs to end, in my opinion. We need to go to a pay-as-you-go program. So again, we have been budgeting at or below the minimum level, which only allows us to operate at a minimum level without borrowing. We are continuing to fall further behind as a result. Our road maintenance, our facility maintenance, park maintenance, fleet improvement, salary, etc. Sales tax. Finance director mentioned earlier, revenue sales tax at this point is at 500, I believe 544,000 is what you said. But in the proposed budget, we had approximated 500,000. So just with sales tax, we are $500,000 lower than expected. That will come into play with the proposed budget. The fire contract with Titus County, the old contract, we remember, was for $1.3 million. Even though this did not just happen this last year or this year, we are still $650,000 short. So we are we have already adjusted our budget accordingly, but we are still feeling that hit. We do have an upcoming salary study, and we'll talk about that shortly. The last salary study, which was in-house, showed that the fire department was 5% below the midpoint, not the highest salary, but the midpoint. And the police department was 9% below the midpoint, again, not the highest salary, but the midpoint. And the cost to increase both departments just to that midpoint would increase the operating budget total by $330,000. While the goal of the city should not be at the midpoint, mediocrity should not be our goal, we have to start something. We have to at least get to that point. And that is a much more easily attainable goal. Looking at city rates and levies, 2024 city report of property value, you look at the city tax rate, and you notice Mount Pleasant is the second from the bottom, only with Tyler below us. With the proposed tax rate, at least if all of the tax rates with the other cities were to remain the same, we would still be second from the bottom. If those other cities change their tax rates, there could be some shuffling, but we would still definitely be in the bottom section of that list. So to take all these numbers, the financial impact on the budget, the bond debt increased $82,000 more than last year's payment. The fire contract in Titus County decreased $650,000. Sales tax estimate $544,155.45, and the expected salary study adjustment just for the fire and PD police department is 1.6, just over 1.6 million. That is the financial impact just of those topics we were discussing shortly. At this point, I would like to bring Finance Director up here. We have some graphics. We are going back to 2019. We want to see what it was like then and what change has been and how that has brought us where we are today. One of the very important things about creating a budget is we are not just working on this. We are not just taking care of our services for this year. We are making sure that we are preparing ourselves to offer good services and take care of our citizens and our employees, not just this year, but for future years. So I think this is very important to go back to at least this point. So, Gillian.
Bring that down a little. So right here, we're showing our general fund revenues over the past several years. There's a note at the bottom, the 2024, I took out that money from the CARES grant, so that's because that was a one-time thing. It's not consistent over the years, so I took that out of this, but still it shows over the years a steady increase as everything is increasing. And same thing on expenses, everything steadily increasing. We brought things back down in this current year, and in the next year we brought it down a whole lot, as you can see from 2024. And then when we overlay those on top of each other, we can see over the past several years, expenses have exceeded revenues. And that's not what they should be doing. And we see in this current year, we've done the monthly financial reports, we've done all the things to keep that in check so that our revenues stay above, and same for our 2026 budget. And then we'll look at the debt service fund, which is the general fund related bond debt. So the fire truck, the parks, the streets, those types of things. It does not include utilities. So this is the property tax revenue for that fund. You see it's in 2021 it had a big jump, but overall it's fairly consistent. And then here are the debt payments for that same for those services. You can see a couple big jumps in 22 and or 23 and 25 with the new debt issuances, and you overlay them. We're keeping on track. As we saw, the INS rate is calculated based on how much debt you have to pay. So it's already going to be covered. 25 and 26, it shows that the revenue is low. That is just because we have money sitting in the bank ready to pay it out. So we're not charging the citizens extra for the money that's already in the bank. We don't have to go and collect that property tax revenue. We already have it. So that's saving a little bit from the tax rate. And then here's the sales tax over the years. We see from 2020 to 2023, it was going up. That's mostly likely due to the stimulus checks that went out. So some people got them right at the beginning, some people got them a little later. There were 3 rounds of them, so it was spread out throughout those years. And then since then, we've seen it kind of trickle down, and we're hoping it's leveled off now. So that's what that's shown over there. Here is the property tax revenue in dollars for the 3 different sections of our rate. So Shirley talked about the O&M rate. We actually have a portion of that that's broken apart separately for the cemetery. That tiny little portion, it looks like it's at the 0 line. It's right above the 0 line. It ranges from somewhere in the 20s or 30s up to, I think, around 45 for the current year. So that it looks like it's at the 0 just because it's, compared to the others, it basically is. And we can again see the increase in the debt from 22 to 23, and then the steady increase for the for the general fund portion. And then here are the rates for those same sections, as well as the total rate up at the top. So we can see the debt rate has stayed fairly consistent. It went up for a couple of years and then it came back down, but it stayed about where it was back in 2019. It is now. Cemetery rate has stayed the same pretty much all the years, and then our operating and maintenance rate has actually decreased over the years, and our total rate has also done the same, and so this year would bring it back, kind of leveling it back off. So here's a little bit of an overview showing sales tax in blue, property tax in green, and then the debt payments for general and utility in red. And we see over at the end, we see the sales tax number has now dipped below the property tax number, and we'll talk in a minute about how the property tax is now covering for the sales tax deficit that's there. And then here we have our tax rates. So Shirley told us what the voter approval and the no new revenue rate are. So here's what they show as rates and as levies, and the levy is just mean how much tax is actually being brought in for that rate. So it's taking the taxable value times the rate equals the levy. So we see the 2 different rates, and then at the bottom we have the difference between those rates, which we see in the cemetery and debt sections. There is no difference. Those have to be paid no matter what. The debt's going to be paid first, the cemetery comes right next, and whatever's left over is taken directly, and it directly affects the general fund. That difference is that $610,731. And then we'll get into what actually affects the homeowners. So these numbers are directly from the public hearing notice that Shirley prepared for us and went out to the newspaper, to our website, and all that. So it shows the 2 rates, the taxable value, the homestead taxable value, and the tax, and the total levy for the 2 years, and the percentage increase for each of those sections. So we're going to take this 11.42% increase to the average homestead taxable value, and on this next slide we're going to show you what a theoretical 11.4% increase would be for several different values across the board, because not everyone has a house that's valued at that amount. People have values of all different types. So here we have increments of 50,000 for different home values. We see the 2024 information, so last year's information in red, and then the current year in blue. And then on the far right, the last 2 columns will be the annual increase for the tax bill. So that's the total annual increase of the tax bill, and the monthly equivalent. So taking that tax bill divided by 12 on what your monthly increase would be from year to year. So for instance, if you had a taxable value of $200,000 in 24, applying that 11.42% increase would make your new taxable value $222,840, my bad. And that would take your tax bill from $680.83 to $815.69, which is an annual increase of $134.86, and a monthly equivalent increase of only $11.24. So now we're gonna move in and kind of give you a lot of numbers and then compare them to each other. So starting off, we saw that the amount over the no new revenue was $610,731, and then we saw our decrease in sales tax of $534,155. Right here, this is each department in the general fund operating and maintenance budget. So this is the section that department heads have the most control over, and this bottom line here is how much directors were able to cut their budgets year over year. We were able to get $379,638 cut across the departments, and that's including some of the departments having to increase because of various costs. At the bottom, we were able to get that much just from the operating and maintenance. As we know, there were 15 positions either unfunded or eliminated last year, and so those are there. So we're already, as we said, we're operating at a minimum as we are with all those positions cut. And for budget to budget, our general fund payroll is only increasing by $214,840, and that's with option B, which we'll tell you what option B is in a minute. Might not make sense right now, but it'll make more sense in a minute. So that $214,000 we'll take on this next one. So here on the top of the screen, we have the property tax generated above the no new revenue rate at $610,000. Then we have the decrease in budget for sales tax at $534, and that leaves an excess of $76,576. And then on the bottom of the screen, we have the cuts made to all the operations and maintenance by directors of $379,000, the increase in payroll for the general fund of $214,000, and that still leaves an excess cut by department heads of $164,798. So that just shows that the department heads cut well more than enough to cover the payroll increase, and it's not touching property tax at all. Property tax is off on its own, not affecting payroll. And I'm going to turn it back over to Rob.
Jillian. Look next to the cost of living allowance history, or we are also referring to this as a market adjustment. Going back to 2009, you notice there are only 2 times when there were 0% COLAs given, once last year and once in 2010, and then there was a 1% given in 2020. Obviously that was COVID time, and that probably would be, well, disappointing to be expected. I wanted to share that with you to show that there are no years where there have been 0% COLAs. Jillian referenced option B earlier. So when interim finance director Nyhoff was here, he presented the proposed budget. That had a tax, or not a tax increase, a compensation increase in it, excuse me, that we are now referring to as option A. Because since then, I've been able to work with staff, and we have been able to stretch, I think, our dollars a little bit and improve some programs to create an option B. And Councilwoman Corbell gave us option C. So there will be 3 presented to you this evening. Option A, just for review, every employee would receive a 3% cost of living raise, excluding my position. Every eligible employee would move to the next step, which is a 3% increase from one step to the next. And that is just because they have experience. They've stayed another year. So, and the current longevity pay system is set up for $10 a month for each year of service, and it's capped at 25. That was included in the budget. That created a balanced budget, and then we were able to take just over $50,000 to put back in reserves with option A. What we did to get to option B and option C, we took, staff and myself, took the longevity pay and we turned it into we restructured it, created a graduated longevity pay. Longevity pay, the purpose of that is to reward employees the longer they stay. The way it is right now, your second year employee gets the same amount as your 15-year or your 20-year employee. It's not a true graduated longevity pay. You could just call it thank you for being here pay. So we want to make it a true longevity pay program. So this restructure looks like this. First 7 months, it's $0 per month. 1 year to 5, it would be $4 per month. 5 to 10 years, $6 per month. 10 to 15, $8 per month, and 15 years on, capped at 25, would be $10 per month. And that is paid in a lump sum, November or December. Again, it's capped at 25 years. That restructuring gave us a savings of over $37,000. With that, we created option B, and we are proposing that to you this evening. Option B, excuse me, all employees, excluding myself, receive a 3% cost of living allowance or market adjustment. When there was an in-house study I referred to earlier, the fire department was found to be 4% below the midpoint. Police were found to be 6% below the midpoint. With option B, the funds exist to make those jumps now. Part 2 of option B is the steps. All eligible employees, excluding myself, who are not maxed out and have received a good performance review, go from one step to the next step. And then, of course, the last portion of option B is the longevity graduated plan. With that, we did have some savings left over. That we did also found a firefighter position that was inadvertently left into the budget. We took that out. That was a total of $54,000. So with the leftover money after restructuring the longevity pay and removing that firefighter position, we're able to create a permanent part-time kennel tech for animal control. The importance of that position is each year the animal shelter is inspected by the health department. There is a ratio. You're supposed to have enough staff for animals or kennels that are there. We have not met those ratios in years past. So we would like to do that so we can get a clean state health report. So we would be able to create that, not add to the budget with option B. With the money that we do have left over, we are partnering with, it's a D2 baseball tournament team or tournament competition group that puts on baseball tournaments. It's travel baseball teams, usually 30 teams at a tournament. There will be 8 tournaments this next year. We would take 5,000 of that and give it to the police department so we can have an officer or 2 posting and working those tournaments. This, even though we're making that investment, the city will make sales tax and hot tax from that. Plus, it invites people to come back to Mount Pleasant when they're not playing baseball. So we think that's a good investment. And the leftover, I think it is $3,900, would go back into reserve. That is option B. Option C, again, in speaking with each of you, Councilwoman Corbell said, how about option C? So I included this. A 2% cost of living allowance or market adjustment, excluding department heads. That is the big difference between B and C. And then a possible 4% for the fire department and possible 6% for the fire department. If the salary study that we're about to start and have completed in March comes back and states that that is appropriate, those would then come into play. For steps, a 3% to all eligible employees, excluding department heads. Again, that is the main difference between B and C. Those employees that are not maxed out and have received a good meet or exceed performance review, they will go from one step to the next. Department heads, pending the results of the salary study, which again we should have in March, then that would take place, but would not take place in October. The last portion of that, of course, would be the longevity, graduated longevity plan, which is the same as described before. Again, the removal of the firefighter position accidentally left in the budget. We would still be able to create the permanent part-time kennel tech for animal control, still be able to provide overtime funds for the police department to be present for the baseball tournaments, and the 335,000 allocated as restricted funds will be in our budget already. So when that result of the salary survey comes back, if it does state that those positions should indeed receive those increases, that they could take place in. So that is the difference between B and C. Yes, ma'am.
And I will take full responsibility for this if there's been a misunderstanding, but on the 4% or the 6%, we will look at that when the salary survey comes back, and whatever we think appropriate, then we will come back to council and get it so that it's transparent, so that everybody sees.
I will address that as well.
Okay.
I knew you would have that question,
Okay,
so.
I just want to
Fair,
make sure.
fair enough,
Okay,
absolutely. Yes,
thanks.
everything will be definitely transparent. In fact, I want this covered in this meeting, so not only can the public understand and you understand, but the employees understand what the expectations are.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So potential it's actually, I think that's the next slide. So potential compensation increases for both department heads, PD, and fire after the salary study in March. I would ask that this verbiage, if option C were to be chosen, that this verbiage be included. Should the salary study reveal that PD should receive an additional market adjustment to reach a total of 6%, the city manager shall be authorized to make that adjustment. You will be presented with the salary study. You will be part of that process as well. When the study is over, it will be presented to you, so there will be no surprises. You will know how it went. And I would say this on behalf of the employees, this is a guarantee that if it comes back high, there's not a possibility where we have to then come back to council and be told no. So that's why I'm putting this in there for the employee, but also for transparency. Likewise, the second paragraph is, should that salary study reveal that the fire department should receive an additional market adjustment to reach the total of 4%, the city manager shall be authorized to make that adjustment. The reason I put 6 and 4 is we do want that maxed. We do want that capped. I don't, you don't, the public doesn't want that to be left open to where I could come in and randomly pick 8, 9, or 10, or higher, or lower. So I wanted those specific numbers in there. Lastly, should that salary study reveal the department heads should receive a similar market adjustment as all other employees, and or advance to the next step in their salary grade, the city manager should also have authorization to make that adjustment.
So Rob,
Sir.
for our first responders, if they're stepped out, they don't get any kind of raise this year, correct?
Correct.
The cost of
They
living.
could get the cost of
They
living,
will.
but they would not get a step.
But with option C, they're not even getting that until market value next year, right?
No.
They would get, all employees would get a 2% for option C.
Okay. I just saw the salary study for next March, right?
Correct. What that could mean is another 2% for fire and 4% for police, if that is appropriate for the study. So the summary of the options, and we can go back to during your conversation or after the conversation, we could go back to this. Again, is a summary of option A, B, and C. I'll wait so you can get a picture. So the policies that will come to council out of this or before this is we are changing our graduated longevity pay. There needs to be a policy attached. Everything we do should have a policy attached to it. So that graduated longevity policy will be presented to council before the payout coming in November. The first is we will bring updated policies for longevity, grade, step, and plans before the council to approve in the coming weeks. This will establish consistent procedures for staff to follow and also contribute to furthering our transparency and accountability efforts. It will also alleviate some of the burden next year when we're going through this process. My goal is to, when we have this salary study, we are also going to create a policy on how to use our new salary system. So it is not, it cannot be abused. There will be checks and balances in it. So what we will do is we will bring that policy back to you as the council, then you will approve it, and then it will come back, and then that's what council, or that's what staff abides by. So next year at this point, we will not be coming back to ask for a step. We will be coming back to ask for a COLA for the employee. But that step policy will be automatically in place because the policy will have been adopted. Again, council, we will have a workshop with you during this process of the salary study, and it will be very transparent. And we've already talked to the individual that will be performing that, and I believe we are in for a very robust study, and we will compare apples to apples. And one thing that we will definitely put in there, grade and step policy will be presented to council following the salary study in March. It will establish a performance-based guideline. Not saying that that's not in place now, but that will be spelled out very, very clearly. If you are not meeting or exceeding your expectations, not only will you not get a next step or not get a pay raise, but you will not be working. That will be articulated very clearly. We did come up with some recommended motions for each option. If you were to choose A, B, or C, we have those prepared. That, of course, is after you have your conversation. I would conclude with this before I give my recommendation, is it goes back to how we started. We are here to serve the citizens, and we must base our decisions on accurate information. Accurate information that's shared with staff, accurate information that we find ourselves, accurate information that, like we just saw this evening, how did we get to where we are? And can we continue to do the same thing and expect a different result? So we are not just looking at this year. We are preparing ourselves for the next few years. My recommendation would be option B. The reason A is good, B is good, C is good. B is the best, in my opinion. The reason being, and I will tell why I think B is the best, but I will also explain why I can see an argument for C. I have to be fair. B is the best because it does the most with the same amount of money faster. It takes care of our employees, who are the ones that provide the service for our citizens. That's why we're here. That's what the budget is intended to do. I can understand C, and I'm looking from the council's perspective, but I'm also looking from the public's perspective. The level of trust that's here recently is not there. I don't have that document to hold up to say we should be making this. This person should be making this. And having come from law enforcement, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. I know we're behind. You know we're behind. They know we're behind. I get that. I still think option B is the best. I'd be happy to take any question.
Don't want to put the chiefs on the spot one more time. How many of your first responders are stepped out? Y'all know, just off the top of your head? Are stepped out already?
I know that there are 44 total citywide. I don't know how many are PD or fire, but I think we're
44 first responders?
44 total.
Oh,
citywide.
total, citywide.
Fire and city.
14 from the PD. 5 from fire.
5 from fire. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh.
We will get you that. Let's go on to
Okay.
the next question. We'll get you that while we're.
How long does a salary study take?
So the individual, the consultant we spoke with, he will start at the end of this month. And he is expected to end in March.
So say it isn't done in March, does that hold off, I guess, on everything? So this is pending?
We would not make those adjustments until we receive the results. If we waited that long, it would be a little foolish on our part to jump. He said March, but he might be done a little early. And I would also add that the salary study that we're about to get, while we have not received an invoice yet, we will be receiving it for less than half of what we would have paid.
So we
And
do
I
have
think
the,
get a better product.
we do have the answer. We have 10 in the fire department and 14 in the police department that are stepped out.
Do we, businesses?
Okay, we can start with the council.
Okay, so I have got some, we're talking transparency. So, Rob, what slide was it that showed the sales tax, I'm sorry, the property tax every year? That one, go back.
That's COLA.
COLAs. Didn't you have one that you showed me the other day that they did not go, they went down on the tax?
Talking property tax.
Property tax. Didn't
Yes.
you have one? Can you get that?
I don't, well, we have the revenue.
I would have brought it.
It's not in this packet. Do you have that screen? That property tax rate, thank you.
Okay. So I liked it when he had it.
When the
wrote-
numbers were there.
Yeah, it was a
He had the
table.
numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, he had numbers. And so, first I want to say that, this has not been fun at all. And so the last time we met, I voted yes for the proposed because if you remember listening to me visit and ask our lawyer twice, she said we could vote on it, but we could always go down. And so I thought, okay, this gives us 2 weeks to dig and to see what we can do. So I know I've been digging at home. I know Debbie's been digging. I can look at her stuff over here, and I can't speak for the rest. So one thing I read, and I was trying to look for it this afternoon quickly, and I think it's in one of the audits that we had, and I think the audit was done either in 24 or 23. And it made sense to me, and I'm hoping that those that think like me, maybe it does, but y'all might get it. The STEP plan was introduced to the city, and I want to say that it was introduced in 2020. When it was introduced in 2020, everybody, went home. They started having closed meetings, and so nothing was actually done in 2020. Now, I know fire and I know police had theirs, but I'm talking for the whole thing. And so in 21, they did no new, they didn't get raises. I think COLA, and they didn't start the step then. But in 22, there it is. You see that little asterisk besides 2022? You see how it went? It was like 5 to 20%. So when I ran, I had some notes that showed that payroll had increased like, overall, I'm gonna say 68%. I've got quite a few notes up here. And I was like, wow. So when I saw this graph of 22, then on the one that, with the numbers that Rob showed us the other day, it showed, and this is what I find interesting. So in 20, decreasing, what year did it start dropping? Okay, so in 2019, we were good. Okay, the audit's good, we were good, we had money where it was supposed to be. That's where I'm looking at that as we were good. In 19, they started dropping the property, the rate, okay? And it just was a consistent drop. So as the property rate is dropping, okay, the tax on the property rate is dropping. The step plan started, and with the step plan and the COLA, it's a compounding factor. So all of a sudden, where the city was good, it starts going like this. So our property rate was not coming in to really take care of the proposed step. So that is one of some of the things we are dealing with. And when I saw this on paper, I was like, there is no other way to fix that. Because we are, and correct me because I was hoping to have that little grid, we are, as he showed earlier, the second from the bottom on our tax rate above Tyler. Back in 19, correct me, we were 6.68 or something. What were we in 19?
Like 37.372 something. So we were like a little bit higher than the proposed rate now.
Yeah. But if we had stayed there, and I'm sure, and we've had raises before, but we would have been in a better position. So, looking at this proposed, where we were the second, I also saw, and I don't know if y'all seen it as well, if you look at how we stack up locally, and I don't have it in front of me, young Google, the highest tax rate locally is the county. And then it goes to the school, ISD. And then it goes to hospital. And then it goes to college. And then it goes to the city. I looked at that over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, I don't have children going out to the ISD, so I'm not involved in that. I'm not going to the college. It's I don't have a dog in that hunt, but I am driving on my roads where I get a lot of phone calls about our potholes. I get and no offense, but I mean, I'm getting people calling about things that people are talking about that is the city's responsibility to fix. The only way we're going to be able to fix those things is to get back to, and this is what I've shared with Rob, 2019 is my point, because we were good then, and we can go back and see where did we get off. I feel that even though we've got inflation and even though we've had cost of living, if we can go back to that starting point and go, where did we get off, we can fix it. And that is my hope, that we can fix it. And I also have another question that came, and maybe Jillian, you can answer this because you are such a whiz on calculation. So we're watching that bond debt, and it's going up and up and up. What is the rate that it's gradually going up each year? We saw the graph, and you're seeing it where, here it is, but it's going up. Do we have a rate established that we can put back and go, oh, well, that's a 0.4 that we can calculate to see what the rate is that it's going up?
I do not have that information. I could probably figure it out with the numbers that I do have for those years.
And the reason I'm wondering is because, again, now this is where my brain is going, is I want to make sure that if we make our property tax projections, if we make our sales tax projections, I want to make sure that we can put some money back in an interest-bearing account. I don't know that we can offset the interest as that bond is going up. That bond is killing us. And I want to take care of that bond, because every year, if it's compounding, if it's going up, we're going to be dealing with that forever. And I see that as something that's going to be around our necks for years to come. So I would like to know what the rate of increase it's gonna be, and I would like to know what we need to put back. And again, I would suggest that it go into some sort of interest-bearing account, so it's at least growing to try to offset that. The only other thing that I would like to suggest is on the proposed C. I would like to propose that is contingent, the raises, because last year we were extremely disappointed when we did not make fourth quarter. Now, I'm in retail, fourth quarter is sales tax, and so because we did not make fourth quarter, that has been something that's just been another thing around our neck. I would like to make sure that I add the wording that it's contingent on if we make the proposed sales tax. Because if we make the proposed sales tax, then we would be able to hit it. But if we don't make it, then we're gonna be just adding to that debt along with the bond. So those are my kind of.
Understood, and Julie, you might key in a little of this, if I'm not explaining it correctly. If this is passed and option C is chosen, those funds will already be there. So we will not be expected on sales tax or anything else to provide those funds. They'll already be set aside.
I just want to make sure that if those funds are set aside, that they are available if we are needing it to take care of our shortfalls.
We do have some reserves. If we have anything, we don't want to dip into those. That's one of the things that got us into the issues that we're currently in.
Yes.
But if this is passed, well, again, with option C, we will have that money already set aside waiting just for this. So we won't have to anticipate or expect another revenue source to come in and provide funding for that to finish option C out.
Next.
John? Yeah. You either of y'all have anything?
I mean, yeah, so that's kind of where I asked. Tax assessor was up, kind of wanted to lead into this a little bit, so thank you again for answering the vanilla question I tried to throw at you. I mean, I would think overall, just from a tax rate perspective, I mean, it makes sense why tax rate was going down, valuations were going up, and so they were trying to balance out the two. Again, we're in a softer market now, and with the state legislature changes, right, it limits us next year. So while we can always lower the tax rate from that perspective, it would be harder to recuperate from a challenge next year than it would be this year. On the other, I mean, I prefer, based on the budget decisions of last year, I think my preference would be less waiting, but at the same time, I understand where concerns are about where's the money really going and why's. I just want to ensure that we're not having to run at a deficit of employees as well.
Yes.
Because I know, there were sacrifices made last year, and at the same time, if the study doesn't come in right and the market isn't there to increase those rates, I see where that's as well. And then to Kelly's point, right, then there's additional reserves is also. But I think that's all I had to say on it.
Yes.
Councilman Corbell?
I will just say what I've already said. I don't want anything to be automatic. I want it to come back once we get those salary surveys. I've talked to you, we've all done our own things. I do believe we're gonna be under on police and fire and maybe a couple other categories. If we put that money aside, I want it to come back to council. I want to know exactly what we're going to give. I want us to vote on it because we're the ones that have to make that decision. And I don't want anything being automatic. Everything has to be transparent, come before the public so everybody, I don't care if we have to go through this every time. We need to make sure everybody knows exactly what is going, where it's going, and why it's going.
I agree with everything except for voting. I would come back and say, regardless of whether or not we vote, but I'm thinking from obviously the public standpoint, you're approving it right now. You still have the power to say, no, that's not gonna happen, I come back and you vote. So you still have the power to approve or not. What I'm asking for is on behalf of the employees, if they do go with option C, which is not, in my opinion, the optimal, the best for them. Again, we know, there's a reasonable expectation they will come in significantly shorter, not from the highest grade, highest the salary, but midpoint. There's a very reasonable expectation, not just fire and PD, but at least those two. Those will be the highest behind. And for the department heads, if we go with option C, should that then be appropriate, you will know, I will come back and give you updates. I will not do anything in a closet. You know me. I'm not going to just tell people, trust me. I'm going to bring that information back. It will be transparent. And you know that.
And you know me.
Yes.
And I'm gonna question.
Yes.
We have gone through too much in this city the last 5 years. Our trust factor is 0, and for very good reasons. So I'm always gonna tell you the same thing. I want it out there in the public. I want us to be able to see it and approve.
And that's why I'm considering option C. Honestly.
I know.
Because of the trust factor.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, I'm just gonna jump back
sir.
in here, just to address the one slide that you had diligently put together if option C was chosen. And I think the intent you're trying to do, just more for the public, is, right, you provided a 4%, I think it was, no, keep going, the language, yeah, back one. Nope. Nope,
Talk about B?
the wording for C.
Okay.
Right.
That one?
Nope. Keep,
It's the policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? No. You had some percentages on there. There you
That
go.
one.
Yes. So I think the intent of
Should
this
have
slide
numbers.
right here, I think the intent of this slide, what you're really trying to say is if we approved it and it was deferred, right, until the salary study came out, that you're trying to set at least a ceiling. So let's,
Yes.
for instance, right, it comes in at 10%. I'm just throwing out a
We
number.
go no higher than
Yes.
6 and 4, yes.
Correct. But again, I hear what Debbie's saying, right? I mean,
Sure.
it would never go over that. And that's where I think our controls would be, and the concerns, is if it's a 2%, we're not just gonna automatically go to 4 or what have you.
Okay. Ultimately, you make the decision. And I'm here, again, I will stand up for the employees, but not to the detriment of the council, or the council or citizens. I will also stand up for the citizens, but not to the detriment of the employees. I will also stand up for both, but not to the detriment of integrity. That's where I stand. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. Because I know last year they were also told, you will get this, and then that never happened.
One statement I'd like to make, because we did catch some flack when we were working on our charter. And, like, why is it important that people on the city council live within the city limits of Mount Pleasant? Well, it's because Citizen Kelly is going to have the same increases that y'all have. So the people that live in the county will not be paying. And it hurts. It hurts from my perspective as, small business owner. But yet I'm trying to put Citizen Kelly to the side so that I can really see what I think is going to be the best for the city. That's a very, very hard decision to be in. I wish that I didn't have to be in this position. But if it was someone, as in the past, that were putting some of these things together, they did not live here. And so they're not experiencing it out of their own pocketbook. So I think it's very, very important that those of us on the council understand it, just like the rest of everybody.
And you also have a requirement that your city manager lives here, and I moved here
Yes.
a week after I was hired. So
Yes, yes.
I don't own a house yet here, but we're working on it. So.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Councilman Hinton? Anybody else?
No.
In the audience? Online?
So what do you want us to do, Rob? Pick a B, or C?
Yes, sir. You're here to approve the budget with A, B, or C. It does not impact the budget other than what you saw as presented this evening. It will all be balanced.
Did you not bring an option in case we didn't approve the tax rate? I mean, did you assume?
I did not, because we had individual meetings.
Sure.
And throughout those meetings, again, there was some frustration, but there was also communication. There was growth, there was understanding, and I felt very confident with all 5 of you, actually all 6, I met with the mayor as well, all 6 of you, that this would pass.
Oh, I liked our meeting. I thought it went very well.
Yes.
And I'm very happy about the future with you in it.
Thank you.
I'm also concerned about our tax-paying citizens. You know, a lot of these folks are having a hard time buying food, getting to work. They're worried about their families. They're worried about tomorrow to come. And if we increase taxes on them, I mean, it's just gonna make it tougher on those people, okay? It's just very expensive to live in this day and time, and it's getting harder. Our property values keep going up, so that brings more money in. So when you combine property values going up and a tax increase, it's just more money out of people's pockets that are having a hard time surviving today. I think we as a city have to really look deep inside and say, are we doing it right? Have we really cut what we can cut? Or are we working overstaffed? Can somebody wear 2 hats? Is our salaries at the top overinflated? I mean, 20% COLA raises in 22, okay? I cannot and I will not vote for a tax increase to the citizens of Mount Pleasant, Texas until we do a better job in-house. And you've been here 2 weeks, so 4 weeks, okay. It seems like 2. And this in your budget. I mean, that's not. You didn't build it. And I think it's just premature to tax the people until we take a closer look and clean our house. That's all I got to say.
I don't have a vote, so, but I'll just let you know from my point of view to quality of service, you know, our quality of life, our first responders. I just don't want that to be uncertain, you know, and I definitely don't want the quality of life to go down in the city. I mean, I think B is reasonable, but it is ultimately up to these guys. So, how do you want to proceed? Do we vote on B first, or vote on C, or?
Do we want to hear from
We need to,
citizens?
well,
And I will say this, just,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
hear
yeah,
from you
yeah.
guys, yeah.
I've
And you
been
guys
asking-
are welcome to come
yeah,
up and
come on
talk.
up.
Yeah.
That's what we've been asking. Thank you.
My name is Charles Horn. I moved here in 1970. I've been here for 55 years, and I've been fortunate to buy and sell a lot of real estate, not only here but in other states. I've sold heavy construction equipment for years, which Mount Pleasant has bought some. I know a little bit about governmental sales. I was the #2 guy in the United States for selling Caterpillar to governmental agencies in 1984 and 85, and it's been a while. But I'm pumped up to hear some of the comments here tonight. I haven't, in 40 years, I've been to one other council meeting. Okay, the reason I'm here, we're talking about things. Okay, let's take it one at a time. Miss Dickerson does a great job. However, her hands are tied. Guys, you need to protest your tax. They have guidelines to go by, but Shirley's not going to enjoy what I said. But they need to be aware of location and condition of the houses, and they haven't this year. Everything is going up. I hope that the appraisal district in January pen is as sharp to evaluate dropping property values as they have going up, cause it has hurt not only me, but my renters. They can't afford it, okay? All right, there's not much we can do about that. That's a done deal. The only thing we can do in looking at all of this to try and summarize it, that man over there just walked into a heck of a deal. The genie has been out of the bottle. Now he's got to try and put it back. And I can't believe the county and the city dropping the $625,000 deal. I'm not pointing fingers, but that was not a very good decision. Okay, we got to move on. All right, what are we looking at? To really summarize and put it in a deal, I am not for an increase, but I'm for giving an increase. We need it. Everybody knows that everything is going up. You go buy groceries, I don't care what it is. The employees, here's a bottom line deal. I would vote for it if it goes to help the actual workers that's getting out here on the street and doing the sewer and the city and all this stuff. And it is okay if transparency. What transparency do we have? There's not 25, 30 people here. If the city of Mount Pleasant knew that their property values is going to go up as much as they had, we ought to fill up the convention center, because who wants their houses to jump that much? I had stuff go up $20,000, $30,000 over last year, and they didn't take consideration of where it was or the location. Market values, that's all I heard, market values. Okay, well, I would like to see the money go to people that's working. And I know my time's kind of run out, but how do citizens know? I had to come in here and talk to the lady out front so I could get information, trying to get on your website to find out anything. And I am just blown away at, you're talking about this gentleman here is wanting to survive and pay the bills for the employees. And when I look at the current salaries of some of these folks, I'm wondering, are you earning your paycheck? What do you do to make those big bucks? Look it up. Look how many people is on here. Assistant, captain. I mean, you go down the row here, and there's just a lot of employees here drawing big bucks. Now, I think part of that is from the previous administration, but I'd like for you guys to look at this. There's some things that need to be cut, and there's a lot of positions, in my opinion, they're not earning their paycheck. And I'd like to see some of the guys at the top not get this 6% or 2% or 4%. I don't think they deserve it. With the salaries they're pulling today, I don't think they're pulling their weight. And that's about what I think. I'd like for y'all to postpone it and get it and look at this. You could cut a lot of let me say, there's some positions that could be cut. I can remember when Debbie was here and other people that carried the hat on 3 or 4 things and did a great job. I know one guy that did 5 things, one salary. Now we have to have all these individuals, and I'm wondering, what do they do to make their money? What? I mean, I'm serious. I don't know how they earn the paycheck. I think y'all got something to look into. I would vote for it if it goes to the right people that's doing the work. But the top, the cream, needs to be looked at. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody online? Somebody online, I think. Candace is looking at it. And who is this from?
I have to find the question.
Okay.
Here it is. It's from Daniel Ragsdale. He says, how much has the city lost out on from miscalculated appraisal valuations, permit fees, and court cases never seeing the light of day? Over 2,000 currently backlogged. Then there, Daniel Ragsdale again says, who is the salary study consultant? And that,
I don't know who can answer that. Maybe we can take that question offline and see if we can get some sort of answer for him. The city manager wanted to step back up. We're gonna go over a slide again. And before we do that, does anybody have any comments right here? Yeah, come on up.
We just built our house last year, and so we're realizing the taxes and then it increased so much, like, it just feels like you're taxing us out of our homes, really, from where we just moved to and built a house, and so we're just wanting to at least stay the same or some, not increase by such a drastic rate. So that's really what I'm here for.
Okay.
So if we can
So
try
the
to do
property
as much as
tax.
we can to try to keep it as is or as it was, not be increased. So.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question. I know that the county voted on their proposed tax rate. Have they voted their final tax rate? Anybody know?
Do you know, Shirley? They have?
I knew that was proposed, but I wasn't sure. Okay. Go ahead. 1 penny.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with option B. I think A's out of the window. We just wanna recap option B and option C.
So A was the one that was originally submitted with the proposed budget, when interim city manager Nyhoff was here a few weeks ago. Option B is the one with the graduated longevity pay. That gave us the ability to present a 3% all, 4% fire, 6% to police for the COLA or market adjustment, 3% step across the board, and then of course the graduated longevity. Option C, and we're also able with B to create the permanent kennel tech, and then also give the police department money so they could perform security extra patrols at the baseball tournaments. But again, there would be 8 of them, 30 teams plus the tournament. Option C is the 2% COLA, all employees excluding department heads, and a pending 4% and 6% increase for fire and police department, again pending the results of the salary study, which should be due in March. Second part of that is the 3% step to all eligible employees excluding department heads. This would obviously exclude those that are not, or include those that are not maxed out. And the pending part would be for the department heads, pending the result of the salary study again in March. And the graduated longevity plan, again, we're able to create permanent part-time kennel tech, give the police department overtime so they could staff the baseball tournaments. And then that $335,000 that would be allocated for those 4% and 6% increases for COLAs, and then also to include the department heads in the cost of living allowance or market adjustment, and the steps would be available when we got the results of that study back in March. So that is your summary of options that are available to you, options A, B, and C.
Are there any questions from the audience on that? Anyone?
What do y'all think?
Come up here so they can hear you on the, since we're doing the YouTube. Thanks, Ray.
I just wanna make sure option A is off the table.
I'm pretty sure
Basically.
it's off the table.
Okay, thank you.
I'm getting texts from people that saying they're submitting things. Can you see, is there a lag or something?
So a lot of them are just going back and forth communicating. All the questions that did pop up, I did read if it was a question. Now I can read the comments if you wanna hear the comments, but it is.
Statement, people have a statement.
If there's a professional statement in there,
Yeah.
we can.
So from Daniel Ragsdale, let me go back to the top. And I'm just gonna read everyone's and then by name. What the city needs is some Doge-esque deep dives into each of its departments to see who and what is exactly needed to be effective, productive. I did read his about how much has lost, who's doing the salary consultant. I think first responders should be the only ones to get raises until the city itself can prove itself to run effectively and efficiently. The morale of first responders directly affects the citizens. Has anyone looked to see how much the city pays for their attorney based in San Antonio? The city states they want transparency for all. Why can you not access any type of records online? If you look at Net Health in Tyler, every record is available through an online portal. Then it says something about the website still has 2023. So then Bushcraft, Texas says costs are going up, which leaves less money to spend. That's $5,000 less in sales tax, so we're gonna make it up by raising taxes. It's a serious slap in the face to see to travel this country as a job based on sales, working 60+ hours a week, and not to have the benefit of a COLA and a 3% raise a year, to have to pay despite sales going. When any of us are short in bill money, we have to make serious cuts, not give raises and raise taxes. And it's your taxpayers to support your employees, the same taxpayers that are strapped. Look at the $500K in sales tax to see what that is. I 100% agree. Give the fire department, police department paid, and start making cuts as fast as recovery. And then Jack Anderson says, we don't need any more fast food. We don't need any more apartments. And then Sarah asks, what is the cost of living for the people who don't pay the bill? And that's all.
So Rob, before he gets lost, who's doing our salary study? Can you go ahead? I don't know if you can legally say who was going to do it, how much it was going to be, and who's doing it now, and how much it's going to be.
It was going to be, correct me if I'm DC Municipal, and I believe the cost was $40,000. And the individual that we have been talking with is Shane Howard. We have not entered a contract with him, but he has provided a price. Again, half that cost is with a company called Engage.
And you were saying with more details than what we were going to give with that.
Yes.
40,000. Correct. Okay. Yeah, come on up, sir.
Hi, my name's Alex Perez, and I'm gonna kind of echo some of the things that were said on the comment, but I think the first responders definitely deserve anything we can give them. You know, if the budget allows, I think we should give it. But as a homeowner and trying to raise a family, when times are tough and the money is not there, you have to make cuts. I think employees who have a job, yes, I feel sorry for them that we can't give them a raise, but maybe next year. And I feel that by raising property tax is gonna hurt us in the long run when it comes to sales tax. I just think every time we raise property tax, our sales tax are gonna drop because people don't have the money to go out and spend. They have to make tough decisions. Do I pay my property tax or do I put food on the table? And from what I understand, a lot of people right now are not paying property tax because they're deciding to put food on the table. And it's a tough decision. But I think we're hurting ourselves over and over by trying to make up sales tax by raising property tax. And I think it's you know, that's why we're having that deficit. And I think if we just hold on to property tax where it's at, I think or income taxes or sales tax will go up automatically because there's more money in the people's pocket. That's just what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
someone would like to know, commercial properties in the city limits do not reflect the same increases as residential properties.
Was that a question or?
It's from Daniel Ragsdale, and it's in here like 3 or 4 times.
Shirley, do you know anything you could say on that? I don't know really what it's, I'm wondering, is it in your lingo that you're understanding what he's saying? Thank you.
Is it already on?
Yeah.
Okay. I think if I understand the question, residential properties are gonna increase more, especially in the last 4 years, because sales had increased so much and, people were paying a whole lot more, than what they had been in the years previous. As I said in the presentation, commercial properties don't sell as often as what residential properties do. So there's not a whole lot of stuff to base that information on. So we're looking at cost increase. That's what we base the commercial properties on, and we do get the cost increase as far as how much would it cost to build that property again new at this time, minus the depreciation. Sales information on those properties are not readily available, and they just don't sell as much as the residential properties. So as far as the increase goes, the residential properties usually increase a little bit faster or higher than what your commercial properties are going to.
It sounded like it did. So is any of that automatic, I mean, with software, or do y'all actually evaluate?
No, we actually.
Any other questions online? Any more comments online?
Ronnie Moore, can you call up the slide that shows the debt, the sales tax, and I think the property tax line? There were 3 lines. Yeah, that one. Sales tax and property tax. When I initially looked at this, I had a problem with it. What you're really looking at is sales tax and property tax are over, I believe, 6 million. So you're looking at 12 million. The debt payment, that 12 million is way above that debt payment. I don't know if anyone thought that or not. Anyhow, I just noticed that. You're looking at 12 million versus, what, 7 million?
And you're fine on time. That was just my alarm.
Anyhow, what I was gonna say was, on the salary increases, the raises, there's not a D, which is don't do nothing, that budget. I would recommend, if you're gonna do anything, go with option C.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, council, appreciate y'all, and your time today. Excuse me, I've been at the football field coaching Little League. That's what I do during my free time. So I've been listening to the city council meeting, while I was on the football field with the little kids. And, city manager Vine presented y'all with 3 options. And, option C just did not look very pleasing. Option B is what I strongly recommend, because, like I said earlier, there was 10 firefighters that are maxed out. So that means that when it's time for a pay raise, there's nothing there for them. 14 police officers maxed out. So when the pay raises come, they've been loyal to the city of Mount Pleasant. They've served their community, they've been here. And you tell me we can't take care of the ones that's been here taking care of us? Some of y'all don't realize that when we're off duty, the community, sometimes they don't call dispatch. They call an officer that they feel comfortable talking to. Now ask that officer for some advice on what should they do. Same thing with a firefighter. They do the same thing. When the maxed out ones are gone, who's the community gonna call on? They're not gonna feel comfortable talking to a rookie officer. They're not gonna feel comfortable talking to a rookie firefighter. Both chiefs are battling, trying to keep their officers and firefighters here. We gotta support them. As a community, we gotta support them. I know a lot of people are complaining about tax increase. I own a home too. Guess what? Taxes go up, I have to pay it too. We don't get pay raises, guess what? We're in the same boat too, struggling to pay our property taxes. Like I said, I know it's hard times right now, but we gotta bridge that gap somewhere and work together.
Sir, wait, I hit the button. I wanted you to know that for what you said, what you just stated, I don't like the step, because I've seen people who have served both, fire and police, and people who have served in the city longer than 10 years. And man, that's amazing. I mean, that's something that should be appreciated. And so, that's not, unfortunately, that's not what we can talk about now. It's we started talking about this step in the middle of the summer. And because of the deadline, I can't do anything about it. But I'm hoping that after we get through this, that with various workshops, and when we do the salary study, that we can really talk about the step. And again, this is Kelly, and you've heard the term mentioned, trust and the things that have happened in the last 5 years and da-da-da-da-da. We don't have anything in writing in front of us. So I'm hoping that after we get through this, that we can all come back together and discuss this, because I don't think, I want to see people who have worked for the city, and for a long time. I mean, that's to be celebrated. I mean, that's the way work is. I mean, in the day, it used to be not people jumping from job to job to job. It used to be, that's where you retired. That was your home. That was your work family. And that's what I see here, and that's what you want to build. And so for that reason, I do not like the step. I don't think it's fair. But I'm not educated enough, honestly, on it at this point to make any valid decisions, except just to get through the budget, which is before us right now. And then hopefully with what I have addressed with Rob, is that we can, with this study, and that we can, with a workshop, talk about what we can do to make it better, because I'm not happy with it. So, but like I said, I don't know enough about it, except we just have to work.
Well, and Mark, you were probably talking more about the market value or the COLA, right? Not giving that, putting that off.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, there again, and I heard this a lot last year, that's what happened when we implemented the step plan, is that we pigeonholed people into a 10-year period. With that step plan, everybody knew from the time it was implemented that in a few years it was good for a while, but it wasn't gonna be good toward the end, because now we have 40-something, 45, 47 people that are maxed out. So the step plan was good probably in the beginning, but it's not that good at the end. But that's why at least the COLA, everybody will still get a step under any plan, and everybody will get a COLA. So they will still get their step plan, which is 3%, and even at any plan, they'll either get 2%, and even those that are maxed out are going to get something. They're gonna get the COLA, which is 2% of their salaries, and it is gonna move them up. So, and I heard this over and over last year, that we didn't get anything, and I know they didn't get a step, but, I mean, they didn't get COLA. But everybody still got step, and that's what everybody needs to remember, is that we still have the step plan in place, and then we are looking at a COLA. So everybody, even the maxed out fire, police, and the other 24 employees that are maxed out, will still get a 2% or 3%.
And I hope that, with what Rob has introduced, and again, that's why I'm for C, is that if that money is put back, and we have a chance once we have a workshop, and we can look at the step, and we can look at all of this fairly, it's not just always gonna be a COLA. I mean, I'm looking over here at a friend of mine right here that stepped out, and, he didn't get a step, and I guess you got a COLA. But my point is that you didn't get a COLA. So
Not
my
last
point
year.
is that I don't like that.
Yeah, and I understand that, but like Ms. Corbell said, some guys pay raises last year. The ones that are maxed out did not get absolutely nothing last year.
Right.
And not only that, but our insurance is going up. Our
Yeah.
insurance has
Mine
gone
too.
up. So the 2% versus what our insurance went up, 4%, 4.2%. Where's that pay raise? Now we're negative, so it's gone.
Jillian, will you tell everyone exactly what the insurance increase is? I looked at the charts. Tell us what the insurance increase is, and then on an $80,000 salary, you're gonna get a $2,400 on a COLA. Tell us what the increase on the insurance is, because I think it's like $7 or $8, $10.
I would do it with the dependent and spouse just to ensure, right? Cause
Yeah.
it's a variable, just, everyone's gonna be different.
Yeah. Because we did have that part in one of our deals. Yeah, that's the insurance. He sent me a text about
That's all the questions I have, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And we appreciate y'all.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So, my name's Kenny Rosal, Melvin Fire Department. I just have a question. You say you don't like the step, okay? You do realize fire and police across the state of Texas work on this step plan. And I understand what you're saying. You don't like it because, like you said, Debbie, 10 years, we're done, okay? 10 years, you should have promoted maybe, maybe not, okay? That's the risk we took, true. But then again, 17 years that I've been here, still a firefighter. Love my job, come to work every day. Wouldn't want to do anything else, okay? And for what I want you to understand is that step plan is very important to these younger guys, because guess what? Me and you, we've all talked about it. You can draw a circle, a distance. These guys can leave here tonight and go 30 minutes up the road and make $7,000 more a year than what they make right here. Okay? They can drive a rock wall they make 20 more thousand. And you know, you hear the people say, well, they won't drive the car. Yeah, they will. And here's the thing, us older guys are getting older. We're not gonna be here forever. So what level of service do you want? When 911 rings, and we come to your house, you feel safe? You do, because you know, when we come off that big red fire truck, we're gonna risk our life to save your pet. Now, if we get rid of all these people, they go away, we all retire, what are you gonna do?
I hear ya, but you,
Okay.
like I would like you to get
Oh, I would love to get compensated.
and that's why I don't think it's fair. I mean, yeah, I want the young, you know, the ones that pump irons to come in my house and pull me out of my
But
house.
I
But
want-
I want to make sure that you and the people who have been here are also getting compensated.
Right, I understand that, and that's where the COLA, whatever you wanna call it, market adjustment, okay? That's where that comes in. We know that. Debbie alluded to last year, they got their 3% step. I got nothing. My insurance went up. I ate that, that's fine. Insurance is gonna go up again this year. What you decide is what I get. Is it gonna gel out? May not. But you know what? Next tour, Kenny's gonna come to work. He's gonna do the best for this public, because that's what I signed up to do. But with that said, I want y'all, and I know, trust me, I know more about city politics nowadays than I ever wanted to know, okay? Trust me. And I'm the vice president of the firefighters. Trust me, I know way more than I ever wanted to know, and y'all do too. But here's the thing. We didn't bring this horse to water. We're gonna have to make it drink, and we're gonna have to figure out how to make it drink. And no, you know, you talk about the city, about raising taxes in the city. County's already raised our taxes. Okay? So, I mean, it's a fact of life. It's terrible. It's terrible times we live in. You know, and I go to sleep every night and pray to God that He takes care of it. Okay? And I pray for you people, because I know you got a hard decision. But here's the thing. You gotta make a decision. And here's the bad thing. We lost 5, more or less to nutrition, because they were afraid they were gonna lose their job. And we were in really bad, and y'all know. You know, I don't wanna see 5 more walk out the door, and we're not gonna be able to play. We can't afford that. We're stretched now. So covering the county and everything else, we can't do it. We don't have an even number of shifts right now. We got 11, 10, and 10. It's not even, so every day you're not getting the same amount of coverage. That's just the facts of life. So with that, I appreciate y'all's time. And back to the step deal. I understand what you're saying, but I also want you to understand, from a tenured person, when we went through that, I understood that, okay? These officers, they understood that. But that's where the COLA comes. Yeah, you know, if it's 3%, okay? You give me 3%, and you gave them 3% step plus the COLA, that's fine. We're only getting 3%, but we knew that when we did it, okay? So actually, you say it's not fair, but we signed up. And if I promote, you know, hey, I got 5 more steps to go. That's if I do. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. We've got something online?
The first responders, this is from Daniel Ragsdale. First responders are overworked and underpaid. For example, the backlog of the court cases. Imagine writing tickets and arresting people, yet no actual positive results take place. Bushcraft, Texas says give the fire department and police department the raise, cut other positions. Like the man pointed out, we have to make cuts like the taxpayer has to do. And then Daniel says, comparing first responders to other city employees is like apples to oranges. They are the only ones that put their life on the line each day. Then T. Nichols asked the question, if the study comes back, are y'all going to pay it, or did we just waste $40,000 for the answer to still be no?
So it'll be about $18,000 and not $40,000. But that is one of the questions I have, is that if we don't give the increase, when we were talking about it earlier, are we gonna be in a situation to where then we're gonna have to eat 13%? If it comes back and saying that they're 20% under or something like that, are we gonna have to eat that all in one bite?
Well, I think, and I tried to address that earlier, and Rob could talk to it, but basically he had the slide where there's a ceiling, right? So if it goes at 2%, then it's 2% based on market value. But if it's at 12%, then it's gonna be at whatever, it's the 4 and 6 or what have you, that's showing right now, without an additional council approval. So we're trying to vote for a ceiling if we went with C. I'm not recommending anything, that's what the slide showed.
So the increase in insurance, it's anywhere from $350 to $450 for medical alone. That's not including dental or any other insurance increases.
Okay, is that the increase in it
Yes, that is the increase.
for a year? Okay, okay. Thank you.
Rob?
We have the slide back up there for the summary of the options for your review.
Does anybody have any other questions in the audience? Anyone? Online? Statement
Are there any questions for me?
Yeah.
At all?
for our city manager?
I will sit down.
Are we ready to close the public hearing and make a motion?
Oh, one more.
Yeah, come on out.
I am Faye Hoffman, and I have a business here. And I am getting tired of people coming to us saying, we have nothing here in Mount Pleasant to entertain anybody to come. I'm thinking, because I've got a park right across from my antique shop, okay? We should have something going on over there for the holidays. Halloween's coming up, Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas is coming up. We need to have something going on over there to draw the people in to hear, because I get so many people that are saying we have nothing here to entertain the people to come from Cookville. It doesn't make any difference. But Sulphur Springs, that's all I hear is what's going on in Sulphur Springs. They all have some kind of activities for the families to go to. And I think the possibilities of the park that's over there, we have things that do go on in the park. And not only that, but we have the food trucks that are there, and they'll block my whole parking area. I can't get customers in there. I gripe about that, trust me. But I think we need something in the park going on. Movies, bring in a movie, bring in the people, the kids for the holidays that are coming up. I don't think it would cost much to put a big screen. I think we've done this before, haven't we, before? Yeah. And have chairs out, and if it gets a little cool, they can bring a blanket or whatever. But we need some activities in this town to bring in some money. Because, and I'll tell you something else too that I get very angry about. A lot of these people that live in this town, rather than shop in town, whether it's a dress shop, a beauty shop, whatever, or antique shop. They're going to Longview, to Texas, to Dallas to buy it. They need to stay here and see what we have to offer, because they're living here and they might as well, even the florist, you know, the things like that. We need to think about our own town rather than these people wandering out of town to spend the money. And I would like to see something going on over in the park for the holidays. Some old movies, old cowboy movies, I don't care, but just bringing in something. I mean, if we have a food truck, that's it, or whatever. But we need to try to bring in some business, some new people. I have tons of people that come in the shop, and they're from everywhere, but I don't have a whole lot of people from here coming in my shop. So I think we need to try to do something to entertain the people and bring in money, because they'll bring in money for restaurants, ice cream, cards. It doesn't make any difference, but we need to do something. So y'all tell me what you can do.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I think we do have a lot of stuff going on. I think we need to get better at announcing what we do have going on, because most of the stuff I see is Facebook and stuff like that. And those are one of the things that we are working on is the stuff that we do have in play. We're working on a better way to get that out to everyone so they know that, you know, they know what's going on besides looking at Facebook.
Yeah, I think putting a big screen out there and chairs, and I think it'll bring people in on the weekends anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want a little follow-up on that, and I said this in the last, excuse me, I said this when we voted on the tax rate, and I don't want to raise taxes, right? Just like no one else up here, and that's why we're having such a long conversation about it, and appreciate everyone's input. But you know, EDC was a hot topic, right? When I ran, lots of concerns. I think the EDC, a lot of effort was put in last year by members on this council. And welcome Kevin again and the new EDC board members. And what I don't want to do, and one of my biggest concerns, right, we talk about restaurants, we talk about things to do, and outside of city funded stuff, bringing in, you know, private entities that provide entertainment. If we're not a marketable city and we're losing services and we can't take care of our roads, then you know, they're spinning their wheels. We might get a guy, you know, we might get somebody, but those employees are probably going to come somewhere else, and they're going to take their dollars somewhere else as well. So, you know, all of this I do with a heavy heart, and just like Kelly said, I'm gonna get a nice bite of it myself, depending on how this decision's made tonight. But I just wanted to highlight that because it hasn't been talked about, and you know, that whole board is volunteers, and I know they put a lot of effort to bring in businesses over and over again to help increase our sales tax, increase our marketability, and those executives, their wives are going to echo what this young lady just said, and that is, what am I going to do? What are my kids going to do? So that's just something that wasn't said, just needed to be said.
Thanks, Sean. Anybody else? Sure.
My name is Jack Anderson. I'll be here all my life. Okay. I'm a power lifter for 5 years. Okay. Last 4 years, they do this sticking, all the money's going to the suicide prevention. Last 4 years, they've been in the civic center, no problem. When they raised up the rent up for a 3-day weekend, we had to move this year over to the junior high. Cause, see, that's like, y'all lost money right there. Y'all raised up the rent up all the time. So, since we did the school this year, we are coming back to the school next year. Cause we can't afford that. Cause I know my friend owned the gym for a long time. All the money's going to the community for the suicide prevention. So since y'all raised the civic center up, you ain't gonna bring them more. They ain't gonna rent that if y'all keep raising those.
Thank you. Sure.
Talking to her, so, when will, raising taxes stop? There are 4 properties on our street that have not sold. 2 additional were taken out of the market because they never sold. There are many properties that are still on the market because the prices are compared to larger cities, but our wages are not. So how fast has the house tax rate rose, recently for the growth? There's no way the house will sell to the appraisal value that they're proposing. Are you doing it just to get, more tax money from this, or what is the reason for that?
I'll handle that. And I did not have a slide, but the tax rate has dropped the last 6 years. It has not even stayed the same. It has dropped the last 6 years. And the reason where that money is going from that increased tax rate, $610,000, is to cover the loss of sales tax. That was in one of the slides that I presented. Yes, and we're taking it back to the 2020 tax.
And with the proposed increase, we'll still be in the number 2 slot for the lowest property tax rate, correct?
Correct.
So, and I know one thing that Rob was talking about, and Greg was talking about when he was here too, do you want those small increases, or do you want to do like we had to do with the water, where it was 17% hike and then another 17% hike? So, Rob is trying to manage what we do have and manage the increases in smaller increments, so it's not filled, right? I mean, I know a lot of people are saying, you know, I know one example was $9.50 a month for a house that was $150 or $180. So, well, whatever price of the house is, $200,000 with, I don't know if you can pull back up the slide. So, house that's $250,000, tax valued at $278. The tax bill will be instead of $850, it will be $1,019.61, which is a $14 increase monthly, and annually it's $168.57 to make sure our police officers and our fire department show up, to make sure that our roads get taken care of. Quality of life in Mount Pleasant. So, and I've already said these people haven't been sleeping for the last month and a half over this. Nobody wants to do any kind of increase. I feel like everybody knows what we're all going through, right? So, if we don't do this increase, none of these budgets are going to work, correct?
Correct. Without this tax rate increase, not only will option A, B, and C be out, but we will also have to make an additional $610,000 cut to the general fund budget. That will mean more than likely more cuts, not just cuts to operation budgets, but we will have to eliminate positions. That is not an option in my opinion.
And we've talked about it in previous meetings, but I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page. The budget for this year is costing less than it did last year. The salaries for this year are less than what they were last year. The property tax that we're proposing is from the 2020. So, and you know, we do have a lot of work to do, right? We've got salary studies. We've got a lot of work to do. But what do you want your quality of life to be like? You know, and this is a little bit off subject, but they've just been throwing asphalt over streets for a year. Garrett was planning on doing First Street, correct me if I'm wrong or I'm speaking out of turn, because they've done the cheap thing and they've laid it over and over and over. To re-asphalt that street is no longer an option. We're gonna have to spend millions of dollars and the reason it's not an option is because the asphalt is actually up over the curbs now in a lot of places. So the drainage isn't going right, you know, which is probably gonna create potholes. So we're trying to do it right, and like he was saying, we're just trying to get it done in the most efficient, fastest way that we can do. So I hope that brings it into context that, and these guys, I mean, it's on their shoulders. It's a lot of weight on their shoulders, and A, B, or C, I'm sure somebody's not gonna be happy. So just keep them in your grace and keep them in your prayers for sure, you know. It's some hard work. Do we have something online?
From, I'm not gonna try to say the correct name first. Palma, it's the last name. Option B is the plan to go with. It gives your max employees a raise and hopefully incentivizes your newer employees to stay. Daniel Ragsdale said, bringing business to the city directly correlates with the amount of theft taking places in local retail stores. And then he says, local sales tax directly tied to the amount of theft and crime take place, which is connected to the understaffed, overworked police department and 2,000 case backlog in the city. He also says quality of life for citizens and safety for citizens directly affect each other. And that's it.
Great. Council? We all talked out?
I got one more thing. Sorry, Debbie.
No.
And just to just to make sure it's restated about this tax rate, we raise it, right, to what we're talking about today. The flexibility there the council has is we can reduce it, but we have to set the rate this time. Now, you know, there was points made online and points made in this room about, you know, looking at the non-essential, right, non-fire, and police, or fire and police, said that wrong, other staff, on where, you know, maybe the load can be shared, multiple positions, that could readjust that budget. You know, poor Rob here had to deliver something he didn't put together. And I know all the directors and everyone looked at this pretty intently when Greg was here, but I wasn't necessarily involved outside of the 2 meetings, so I'm not going to overspeak on that. But again, to Carl's point, you know, if there is more fat to be chewed off, then, I mean, I think, you know, the due diligence is there. We have confidence in Rob that he would find it, and then that flexibility could come back. Because, I mean, I understand budgets are tight for everybody. You know, people trying to sell a house, not selling it right now. And if they are, they're cutting it down, and they're not getting whatever the tax they're paid necessarily just because appraisals and market adjusts. So just trying to apply some understanding to this, and to the point the mayor keeps saying, I mean, we thought about it all the way around as much as we could with the information provided today. So that's it, Debbie.
I will just say this. This is the hardest vote I will probably ever make. I have studied harder on this. I have prayed more. I have spent more time in solitude trying to balance what we owe to our taxpayer, who is paying everybody's salary, what we owe to our employees, and still try to find a place where, as one friend told me, that if everybody leaves this room a little bit upset, then you're probably done okay. And I think everybody will leave this room a little upset, a little disappointed, because everybody's not going to get what they want. It is a really, really difficult thing, and I spent a lot of time talking to Rob about this, and the reason, and some of the salary surveys, and some of the comments, and some of the things that we have been battling on that, is why that I proposed, and I talked to Rob about it. I thought it was a compromise. It's not the best that we can do. We will do more. We will look more when that salary survey comes down. We will know more at that time. I don't think there's a one of us that has not sat there and talked to him about possible cuts, combining departments, doing whatever we can to save every taxpayer dollar that we can. It is not a good road. We've been left with a bad hand to play. And I know that everyone up here is going to suffer a little bit, no matter what. Everybody is. We are in a terrible state here. We have just gotten into something that's probably new territory. I've been around for 40 years. I've never seen the amount of emotion, studying, prayer that I know some of this council has done. I've never seen people assassinated for some of the things that they are trying to do. But I think we're going to find a happy medium. We're going to get prosperous again. We're going to do better. We have a great EDC director in Kevin. He is going to move us forward. Rob Vine is going to step up, and if he can take my mouth, then he's doing pretty good. But I think that we have a compromise with what we have looked at, and I hope that we pass something tonight, because if not, we're going to revert back to last year, and we are going to be in a heap of trouble. And the last thing I want to see is those men and women who work so hard for this city to get their jobs cut because we didn't do what we needed to do and take the heat that comes with it.
We're not all happy. Maybe they're not all happy.
Thank you.
The only thing that counts in here is me.
Thank you.
I pay my taxes, and I go about my business, and I have to thank the police department from coming down my road all the time because I've got stuff sitting out and nothing off.
I love it.
So, if everybody stop driving, just thank y'all for being where you are, and just go home.
Amen. Well, and I do want to say that's something that's going to change. It's already changed, but it's going to change more is transparency where the money is going, right? There's going to be more detail out on the web. There's going to be more detail in the reports. And honestly, come to any of us and we can get the answer for you. So just give us a shout if you think money's being misappropriated or moved around or whatever, because we've got a good set of council people here. So just talk to us. Just let us know. All right? Yeah, go ahead.
Bushcraft, Texas says, if you do this and the housing market tanks, what is the plan for the city? You're painting yourselves into a corner. Then I have T. Nichols said, y'all hired Rob Vine to do a job. Trust his recommendation.
Agreed. All right. Anyone else? So, all right, we'll go ahead and close the open session.
Hold on, I'm asking Leah a question.
She's there.
I know.
I would
Public.
recommend that we ask,
Yeah, it's public.
via microphone.
Okay. Lee,
Yes.
so if we are still discussing this tonight to tweak it, we could possibly meet next Tuesday if she posts it by 5. The problem that we have tomorrow, the problem that if we don't vote yes on this, then we have to revert back to last year's. So we have to vote yes, or with what we've got, but we need to I think tweak
On one of
some
the options.
things. And I think I don't see that any one is gonna pass. I'm kind of afraid of what the vote would be. That's why I was wondering if we tabled this till next Tuesday night, that would give us a couple of days to come to a happy medium.
Can I ask what needs to change?
Well, I would like, and I'm confused, so that's what I'm saying. I'm still trying to come up. I personally am for the new rate, and I'm for the longevity. those are the two things that I am for.
So I'm sorry, which option would that be?
Well, I'm kind of between B and C, honestly. I'm kind of between them, if that makes sense. And, so, my questions are basically on the colors and the steps and trying to do something fair. So, that's why I'm stuck. And I don't know if anybody else is stuck. That's just me.
Hey, Lee, I'm just gonna ask a question and not trying to not, but if we vote tonight and it doesn't pass, then we would effectively still need to meet next Tuesday, likely, correct?
So it depends on, okay, so someone can make a motion, it either passes or it fails. And if you're not passing, one of the motions could be to table it until next week. And you could then set do it again, right? You could do these same things again. But if you don't pass a budget this year, before September 29th, then it will revert back to your budget for the present year, and you will be limited to the lesser of last year's rate or the no new revenue rate. So there's plenty of options of what you can do tonight. You haven't even, no one's made a motion.
Correct.
Nothing's passed or failed. And so you have plenty of opportunity to proceed, but one of the motions could be that you want to table it because you want more information or whatever the case may be.
And then my second question is, you're saying a combination between B and C, correct? And it's a nominal change, potentially? Because,
Can we talk about it now?
Well, I'm just saying, like, Rob, none of these are set in stone, I guess is my point.
No,
Right, these are just
those
options
the
that you
general
provided for
outlines.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, option C could go from a 2% COLA to a 3%. There's that type of adjustment that could be made.
Or with B, there could be something subtracted, moved around, or whatever.
Correct. You would just need to articulate that in your motion.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, we're here for discussion.
And another option, if you need to collect you want your motion to be correct. This is not an area that we want to be sort of like close on. We got to be precise. And if you need to recess the meeting to get that motion right, that's fine too. You can do that. It's subject to the mayor's, handling of that. Or there could be a motion to recess.
I'm ready. She's good, whatever option she motioned.
Okay, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-17 adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 budget as presented in option C, with one exception, that any additional wage adjustments from the restricted funds be approved by the council following completion of the presentation of the salary survey.
Do we have a second?
Say that one more time. I just want to make sure. Was it following the slide with the ceiling, or was it separate than that?
No, it will just give us, when the salary survey comes out, then we will come to council the approval of the increases for the fire and police or those positions that need it. I have this from the attorney.
Okay.
So you're pretty much just removing him from automatically, and it will just come back to.
Yeah, we'll come to council. That's the only exception.
Do we have a second? All right. Motion dies, right, Lee? Lack of support?
I would personally, I think with the flux, I think we might want to take a quick recess, even though it pains me to say that out loud.
Yeah, no worries. We want 10 or 15 minutes.
I don't think it takes that
So
long.
can we go to executive or not?
No.
We have to
No.
stay out here.
We gotta talk from the people on this.
Yep.
It's their money. It'd be easier, Kelly.
It would
All
be
right, we'll go ahead. We'll do
It'd be
it.
a lot easier.
We'll do a 5-minute recess. All right.
Me too.
we'll reconvene into the public agenda. And can I get a motion, the same motion? Oh, well, so there's gonna be one alteration on option C. The COLA is going to 2.5%. Everything else in there is staying the way that it is. All right. All right. Rob, you good? Yeah, we'll need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2025-17, adopting the FY budget 25-26 as presented with option C, with the changes of the COLA to 2.5% and the exception that any additional wage adjustments from the restricted funds must be approved by the council following completion and presentation of the salary survey.
All right, do we have a second?
I second.
Madam Secretary, can you take the vote? Oh, you just turned it off.
Press it again.
Press it where, there you go.
Yes.
Aye.
I cannot, will not vote yes for this until we trim all the fat from the city, every bit of it. The taxpayers should not be burdened with a tax increase. It's not fair to them. I agree 1,000%. Our first responders need to be taken care of. But we have a job to do first.
Aye.
It's not perfect, but it at least gets us moving forward, so aye.
We have 4 ayes, 1 nay. Motion passes. And we're gonna go ahead and move to item number 6. Or, item number 6. Hold a public hearing and consider ordinance 2025-18 levying ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 25-26. And this is with Jillian. And we're opening a public hearing. Did you have anything? Oh, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to.
Well, we still need to open the public hearing.
Oh yeah, we open the public hearing. Do we have any comments? Any questions? Any statements? Ricky, we lost our audience. Yeah, all right. All right, we'll go ahead and close the hearing, and we will make a motion, or entertain a motion.
I make a motion to vote on ordinance 2025-18 levying ad valorem taxes for the fiscal year 2025 through 2026.
Do you have a second?
Oh, the wrong one?
So for that motion, if you'll turn to the page in the packet, it has specific wording that has to be used. Tab 6.
Oh. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of 0.366042 per $100 assessed value, which is effectively a 10.4% increase in the tax rate, with ordinance 2025-18.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Madam Secretary, can we get a vote?
With absolute sadness, being caught in a position where we're in a bind, I'll say yes.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
I made my case earlier, but unfortunately, yes. Aye.
We have 4 ayes, 1 nay. Motion passes.
I'd like to say this to Carl Hinton. I have never had more respect and admiration for you for standing firm. And I know we have work to do, and believe me, we have a lot of work to do. I want to see cuts. I want to see people realizing every dollar they spend comes from our taxpayers. And I want our leadership to reflect that. But I want you to know how much I appreciate you tonight.
I agree.
Appreciate you, Debbie, and I think the future's bright. This council wants the best, and I think Rob is the man to get us there.
Ma'am.
We'll be looking for number 6.
All right. Item number 7, consider ordinance 25-19 ratifying the property tax revenue increase reflected in 2025-2026 fiscal year budget.
So local government code just says that we have to have a record vote separate from the budget and the rate ordinances for ratifying the rate, and so that's what this is. So it's just reaffirming the previous vote.
All right. So
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-19, ratifying the property tax.
Aye. Or second.
we're all getting a little delirious up here. Okay, Madam Secretary, can you take a vote, please?
Yes.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. 4 ayes, 1 nay. And we move to item number 8, consider resolution 2025-13, adopting the investment policy. This is Jillian.
All right, so this is one of the housekeeping things that comes across each year to keep us in compliance with Chapter 2256 of the Texas Government Code, which is the Public Funds Investment Act, and it just goes through the policies, procedures, and whatnot for our investments, including our investment officers, which is myself and Candace, and the training we have to go through, and approved sources and everything like that. There aren't any changes to the policy, so it's the same one that's already in place. It's just resolution to adopt it for this current,
All right.
to keep it up.
Carrying on to the next year. All right, and any questions? Audience? Online?
No, I don't have law.
All right, can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to vote or to approve resolution 2025-13, adopting the investment policy.
I second.
Madam Secretary, can you get a vote, please?
Yes.
Aye.
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 All right, we're all a big family again. Everybody was aye. Motion passes. And item number 9, consider rewarding chemical bid 9-2025. This is Candace.
I am stepping in for Aaron. And so this is the award for the chemical bids we buy to treat our water and wastewater plants. The bid process for the chemicals are set from October the 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2027, which helps the city budget chemicals for the next 2 years. We go out for bids every 2 years from companies that are allowed to service our area. We cannot go outside of our area for bids as those companies cannot come inside to service us. This year we received 12 bids. The cost of the chemicals have gone down from the 2023 chemical bid by a total of 5%, but the main chemicals we use, the cost is closer to 10% lower than the bids we received in 2023. We currently budget $900,000 across all 3 plants for the chemicals, and if amounts used stay the same, we could see a reduction between $45,000 and $90,000. So my motion is to award chemical bid 9-2025 to the following, and it's in your packet listed there, but it is to Chemtrade, the aluminum sulfate for $351.98 per dry ton, to Hassa for caustic soda, which is $885 per dry ton, and Unibar will receive calcium hypochlorite for $3.68 per pound, and Unibar will also get powdered activated carbon at $1.36 per pound, and Benetag will be awarded chlorine at $2,420 per ton, and liquid sulfur dioxide at $2,420 per ton.
I'm glad you had to read that, and not me. Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to award chemical bid number 9-2025 to the lowest bidder for each category.
Can we get a second?
Aye.
Madam Secretary, can we get a vote?
You did it.
Kelly seconded.
I thought I seconded. Oh, I second. I'm sorry.
It's two.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on to the final item, number 10, the city manager's report. Rob?
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, keep this very brief. I would first say thank you for approving the budget that you approved tonight. I know it was not simple, it was not easy. There was a lot of conversation that went back and forth. I know that that will not stop, even though the budget process has been completed. But now the real work begins. And to start off with that, I definitely want to say thank you. Much of last week, was spent with meetings with each of you. We will continue to have monthly meetings, not just to talk about budget, but to talk about topical issues. I plan to do that with department heads as well. I've also had plenty of opportunities to visit with department heads, learn about their projects, learn about their operations, learn about challenges and unique opportunities that may be in front of them. I met with key staff and a consultant regarding the upcoming salary study. I shared that during the budget presentation. Very excited about that. That individual is also performing a salary study for the city of Paris, which will be a comparable for us as well. So a lot of that information should already be obtained if he's the one we're going to select. Which, again, we have not entered into a contract. I was able to attend the Titus County Freshwater District Board meeting yesterday. I plan on attending those regularly. Attended the Coffee with a Cop Friday morning, hosted by Herschel. Great event, good turnout. Working with Director of Development Services with a few potential developers that are wanting to come into the city to look at site selection, look at their projects, and possible financial incentives to bring them to the city if it passes the but-for test. And I'm also working with key staff on a project to clearly identify our organizational value. I have asked numerous employees, I've asked numerous department heads, what are our organizational values? And I get the same response, except from the chief, because I don't know. The police department has theirs. So we want to create very clear organizational values. We want to use that to build a good foundation. So from the day that you're hired to the day that you're retired, if somebody says, what does Mount Pleasant stand for? We have an answer that we can give. And so that will be the basis with which we create the culture that's proactive, productive, and service-oriented. That's all I have.
Thank you. We're all awesome. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. We appreciate it. All right. Hey, do y'all have any questions or statements or anything? Anything online?
I would just say this, Mr. Vine, your work is cut out for you.
Amen.
If you didn't see how passionate we are now about spending, about cutting, about doing everything we can to make sure every dollar is accounted for, that's what we want done. We appreciate you. We're so happy you're here. But it is not going to be an easy road, and we're not going to make it easy.
I understand, but I would say this. If you go to my office right now, my light is turned off.
I know.
Because pennies are important. I'm right there with you.
Every penny.
Yes. All right. Okay, it's adjourned. Thank y'all.